we are coming back to this better than Lionheart rules. They're essentially just like Lionheart. They're very similar. There's hardly anything that's changed, except we've introduced some interesting concepts. There are nuances, and one of them is that situations like this right here. Well, so in the last episode and the last turn we played, by the way, we're starting a new turn, we had some casualties caused, but you can see here that it's pretty, I mean, depending on the die roll, this unit's going to be wiped out. So that's why we put in the option of playing it just like Hex Command, where you put markers on the table, you don't take figures off. See? So if you don't take the figures off, it means that it's going to last a lot longer. There's going to be combat, and the unit actually has some value. But if you just take figures off right away, and there's only 2 figures on the unit to begin with, so it's not going to last long. And I guess the original concept of the game was that, get the game on, get it over with, move on, play another round, that kind of thing. So when we start a new turn, we're going to roll for initiative as we did before, as we discussed, on the either brigade, division, or whatever, but it's a group. So again, we have the attempt, if you remember last time, we tried to change the sequence, the activation sequence of his units, but he failed to do that. And this the silver player did succeed in changing his sequence. So, but we'll continue with that. We're going to activate. We'll activate this number 1, and I believe this was number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to attempt to change the gold commander's sequence, and we said it was an arrow. He didn't get it. And the silver player is going to try and change his sequence as well, and he did. So what he's going to do now, and this would actually help, we have little markers with numbers on them, and although you would probably do this some other way, for us, we could just put those numbers down. It might make it easier for these demos. So he'll change it now. This is going to be number 1. This will be number 2, 3, and this will, actually this will be number 1. This will be number 2, 3, and 4. We should get some dice into it. So he didn't get it again, and these guys did. So number 1, these guys. So let's roll on them. And that's the best roll you could get. And the opponent rolls that. So his number 1's activating first, and he's going to go 1. And before we move, we're going to change our facing. See? We're going to change it like this, and we're going to move obliquely 1, 2, and 3. And this guy is going to change his facing 1, 2, and 3. Actually, to keep them together, here's how we're going to do this. This guy's going to move like this, and this, and this. That's smarter. Okay, so his number 1 is going to be over here again. So we could shoot. We're going to shoot anyway. Like artillery, basically you can float in your missile fire. They don't actually have to obey the sequence because they can fire whenever they want. They can fire and move. They can move and then fire, that kind of thing. So he wants to help out his cavalry attack. All right, do it like that. He suffered archer hits here. That's a problem. Let's do it like this. So this is moving here. 1, actually not allowed because this guy's in that kind of. So this is going to be 1, 2, and 3. And then pick a facing, 1, 2, and 3. And then the archers are going to shoot. Okay, here to here and here to here. Again, both 2 because it's extreme range. That's very good. So there are 2 hits registered here. And we'll keep them there because he has to also be able to fire. And here, again, 2, and doesn't get anything. So this guy will fire back to here. 1, 2, same. So 3 goes to 2 because of the range. Nothing. Here, firing here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's half range. They get 3 dice. So they got one hit. Okay. Now, these casualties count for his activation. So the number 2s are going to go. This is the cavalry number 2, and his number 2 is still in the center because he didn't change his sequence yet. So let's roll on those. That's a arrow. That was for the gold. For the silver player, number 2, the cavalry, and he doesn't get it. So the gold number 2 will go, which is the king, which is he can combat. So does he want to? Pretty risky. He only gets killed on a well, he's all by himself though. Yeah, so in this case the king is potentially able to be killed just like any other cavalryman. So he'll simply continue to use his benefit to fight here. So therefore it's 2 dice per figure in cavalry. Add 1 for the king, and he'll fight back with just 2 dice, but every 2 hits counts as 1. So there's 3 there. And we got 2, which eliminates the unit, but it fights as well, rolling 2 dice, and it did not get a full. Needs 2 axes to cause a hit. So that's how that happens. These men are all eliminated. The stand is picked up. Casualties moved out of the way for now. And then, because it's a melee, can the troops continue? We simply roll, just as we do in Hex Command. Arrows will advance, and they don't. And that's it. So now his number 2 is the cavalry. He is going to decide, and that's interesting. This brings up the thing, well, there's an open gap here now, because the men are all gone. All right? It's interesting the way that happened. Go ahead and do it. So he moves 1, 2, 3, and melee there. And this is going to be 1, 2, 3, stop there because this guy is in the way. We'll have a combat there. He's the king, by the way. So in this particular case, what we can see here is that the king will die on a roll of yellow or panic. But until he's the last figure remaining, it takes a yellow to kill the king. So this is going to be 4 dice versus just 1. He can't possibly cause a hit to the cavalry. No. All right, so then there we are. That's that, and we're going to have melee here. So here's 4 dice. And the proximity of the king is only immediately around him, so this is not going to apply, but it's still going to be 4. And it does not, as a matter of fact, get any hits. What's interesting about this is I've rolled 2 panics. Because I've rolled these 2 panics, I need to roll another die, and if I roll panic, this unit is panicked. And we'll discuss what that means. Let's see if it happens. And it doesn't. All right, so they're not panicked. They didn't cause any hits either. That's number 2 and 2. Now it's going to be number 3. So this group and this group. Rolling on gold, rolling on silver. Silver goes. So they've already fired. This is kind of a good situation for him to be in. These guys are in a forest. These guys are not, but they're also on a hill. So there's some limitation there, or some reluctance to do anything. But here, something can at least be done. I suppose if we move our 1, 2, 3, we'll move these peasants forward. The flag is just there because I wanted to see how many flags we had, and I just put it there. Yes. No other activity. So this guy's number 3 goes, and that's infantry 1, 2, and 3. I don't want to block the cavalry because the cavalry is coming in. So 1, 2, and 3. And then 1, 2. Stop right there. And that's it. Number 3 now, or I'm sorry, number 4 now is going to be this cavalry and this infantry, which, by the way, are not involved in melee. So let's roll on gold and silver. Tied. Gold, silver, gold, arrow, silver. All right, silver goes. These 2 can move. 1, this guy's going to have a commander bonus. 2, There's going to be, now here we see an interesting situation. He's going to have to melee. His primary goal was to melee this, but he has to roll off against this guy as well. He has to melee everybody he's in contact with. So he needs to melee this one and this one. So some portion of his die rolling has to be against this and this. So we'll take 3 dice against these guys, 1 dice against this, and 4 dice against that. But we've also got this unit that's in contact. So he's got to roll 1 here, 3 there. So it looks like it's going to be 4 dice here, 3 here, and 1 here. Let's do the 1. Missed. So here, 3 dice plus the 1, 4. And only, oh, it did get 2. So we did eliminate this unit. And then 3 dice there. 2 hits, and coming back with all 4 plus 1, 5 for the commander. Only 2 hits. So 2 there and 2 here. So the 4th is going to be the cavalry. So he can't advance because he's in a melee with this unit here. The multi-unit, multi-directional combat. You have to roll based on your contacts. You have to devote something to fighting somewhere for all the units you've got, you know, in your arc. So the cavalry number 4 is going to move 1, 2, 3, and stop right there in melee. So 4 dice versus, this is the other thing. They've already had a melee, okay? So it's 4 dice. Commander's not in sphere, and it eliminates this unit. So this unit's been eliminated. They advance, so they don't advance. Does this unit advance because this? No, because it's a different sequence. This is the only unit that can advance here. All right, that's the way this is going to work. We take all the casualties away and we can see what's basically left over here. Not a lot. So even with not too many units involved in the combat, this simple game doesn't leave us too much to maneuver with or play with. So now it's interesting. We've got a really good flank assault coming up here on the left. On the right, we've got a depleted kind of situation for the silver. And on the left of the gold, he's sitting pretty good. He's actually sitting pretty much, he's actually much better off than I think the silver is, but we'll see. So we roll for the first, and again, do we want to change the activation? Stay with 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think we're good. Gold tries to change, and finally does. So the gold is going to change with number 1 here, cavalry. Number 2 is going to be this unit here, and number 3 will be the infantry, and number 4 will be the king. So let's roll on his number 1. He does it, well, he gets arrow, and silver rolls, and gets that. So gold is going to go first here. First number 1 is the cavalry. So it advances like that. And that's an immediate melee. That's 4 dice, again, out of sphere, versus 2 dice. And he eliminates that cavalry. So it's number 1 over here. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So that's a rear attack here and a forward attack here. So this contacting somebody in the rear is an automatic panic. So he has to fight here first. I'm sorry, he has to fight here as well. So we'll take, he doesn't need to combat this because, well, I guess we can say he's already combating here, but there's no sense in doing any die rolling because it's an automatic panic and that unit's going to suffer now. So here we got 4 dice versus 2. And that unit is entirely eliminated. Rolling for advance, and it doesn't. Automatic panic here is 1, 2, 3. We'll signify that with a panic. But you get the gist of the idea.